I'm not posting this because I want someone to psychoanalyze me. I've got someone for that. Unless I'm giving you a $50 insurance copay, I'm not inclined to listen to your opinion on the subject. There's no amount of empathy or armchair insight that's going to improve my situation, so please, stuff it. Each night, I'm faced with a terrible decision. I can choose to sleep, but that comes with a whole host of problems I'll share in a few paragraphs. I can choose to stay awake, but that comes with a whole host of problems I'll explain here. The human body can only stay awake for so long before it succumbs to the more debilitating effects of sleep deprivation. These include, but are not limited to, chronic fatigue, dizziness, fainting, and micro-seizures. There's also the matter of psychosis and hallucination, but in my case, it's not like it could get much worse. Each night, I'm faced with that terrible decision, and I choose to stay awake. Believe me when I say I'd love to lay down right now and sleep until September, but that isn't an option. As is, I only sleep when my body refuses to obey my will. I crash hard, and that's where I'm reminded of why I choose to stay awake. The sleep itself is fine. I fall asleep, and for a few blissful hours I experience nothing. No dreams, no tossing or turning, nothing. Well, that isn't entirely true. See, I have a bit of a problem in that department. If I fall asleep, it's guaranteed I'll have an episode of sleep paralysis. I wake up to find myself completely immobile. I can neither move nor scream, as I'm forced to lay there and view my ceiling, and I hear her footsteps. The woman who haunts these episodes moves towards me slowly and uses my body as a canvas for tableau, drawn with fingernails and teeth. The bitch cuts me to shreds. I feel each agonizing cut. I feel the wet smack of her bloody fists hitting my face as I'm powerless to defend myself. I experience this sometimes for what feels like an hour. Then, without warning or hesitation, I find myself awake and in my bed. My room is empty and I'm able to get up and move around. If that were it, I think I'd be fine. Plenty of people have nightmares like this. Most people don't wake up with blood soaking through their shirt and fresh wounds on their chest, legs, and genitals. Trust me, you don't want to show up to an emergency room with a third-degree burn in the shape of a cigarette cherry on the shaft of your dick. If you should be so unfortunate as to find yourself in that situation, it would probably be unwise to tell the doctor that the psychotic bitch in your sleep paralysis dream was torturing you, and that's why you're covered in cuts and burns. It isn't a mistake I've made twice. In fact, I've become quite adept at patching myself up, so as to avoid rising medical costs and awkward conversations with the emergency room staff. My wife left me. She said she didn't want to live with a man that had no desire to care for himself. She's of the opinion that I'm harming myself, and has made no secret about the fact that she worries I'll die before the divorce is finalized. She might stop by the house once in a blue moon to retrieve something from the basement, but she's out the door before I can even talk to her. Honestly, I'm tempted to change the locks. It's impossible to stay asleep for days at a time without chemical assistance. Energy drinks come with a crash within a few hours. Before the onset of these episodes, I'd kill one a few hours before I wanted to fall asleep for just that reason. Caffeine is great for squeezing in a few extra hours, but I've got a prescription for something a bit more potent. I talked my psychiatrist into giving me modafinil. At base therapeutic dose, it promotes wakefulness in narcoleptics. the dose I regularly use, it can keep me awake for almost a week at a time. It does a decent job of getting me through some of the fatigue. The downside is that I only get 60 pills a month and I'll burn through them in a little under 10 days. It's not exactly something that has street value, so if I run out, I have to take my chances with other stimulants that are a bit easier to find. Mind you, I'm not some filthy drug addict. I'm not running around putting rails of meth up my nose or anything, but given the choice between physical torture and aging prematurely from prolonged wakefulness, it isn't even a decision. One is clearly better than the other. So what if the bags under my eyes have transformed into luggage? My wounds get to heal before I crash, and a new round begins. I set up cameras in my bedroom. I shelled out a pretty penny to make sure they could record in night vision mode and everything. Despite this, I have no evidence that anything happens when I'm sleeping, beyond the occasional murmuring in my sleep. Believe me, if I could prove that the bitch was real, I'd probably have killed her by now and we'd be having a completely different discussion. Sometimes, I'll watch the footage and try to figure out when the dream is happening. This usually lasts for an hour at most before I'm up on my feet and trying to avoid resting long enough to get comfortable. Even with the drugs, if I sit still for too long, I get drowsy if I've been up for a few days. As of right now, I've been awake for 4 days. It's getting hard to stay awake this long. I'll nod off for half a second and jolt awake as my mind flashes to the staples that held my scrotum together after that psychotic bitch came half an inch shy of making me a eunuch. Even as I type this, I see the cigarette burn scars on the back of my hand, and that's enough to push me forward. The last episode was the worst so far. I had fallen asleep on my side. Naturally, I woke in that state. I think the bitch liked that I could see her coming. In the dim light of my room, she moved across the carpet with her long red hair covering her face. I could barely make out her features, but I could tell that she was grinning as she pulled a straight razor from her side and sliced it across my cheek. My eyes darted around as she whispered, "Keep looking at me, and I'll pluck out your eyeball." She brought the edge of the razor dangerously close to my left eye as I desperately tried to escape from the terrible dream. Then, as quickly as she'd sliced before, the razor found its way to my right forearm. She licked the blood off the blade and whispered, "Yep, tastes like bitch." Something about her whisper seemed familiar. Still, I was distracted by the searing pain as she lit yet another cigarette and used my navel as her ashtray. At first, I was relieved when she walked away. However, to my horror, she returned with my prescription for modafinil and said, "These pesky pills are coming between us, John. I'll be sure to flush them on my way out." Her raspy whisper almost seemed chipper as she pocketed the pills and went back to running the edge of her blade along the contours of my skin, just heavy enough on the touch to draw blood. This came to an end as I predictably passed out and woke to the sun shining brightly through my bedroom window. My pills were gone, and I had cuts on my face and arms. I had fresh burns on my abdomen. That was 4 days ago, and I'm at my wit's end. I finally broke down and bought some Adderall from a college kid in a desperate attempt to stay awake. It's about as effective as the modafinil, but it comes with a bit more agitation and tardive dyskinesia. It's not going to do me much good, though. It's 4 in the morning, and I've been awake long enough that I know a crash is imminent. I've already scoured the medicine cabinets for anything resembling a pill. Nothing. I even went down into the basement and searched my wife's belongings for anything I could use to keep myself occupied or sufficiently fucked up. With the exception of a few hypodermic needles and a vial of something called Nimbex, the most I could find was some of that caffeinated candy she likes so much. Dr. Snodgrass said that if I showed up to another appointment with physical injuries, he was going to send me to an institution. At this point, I'd almost welcome it. As much as I hate those places, I'd welcome an opportunity for someone far more qualified than myself to see what I have to deal with. I'm going to find out sooner or later anyway. I've nodded off 3 times while writing this. It's only a matter of time. The good news is that I found a pack of Marlboro in her things. It isn't like I'm that worried about my health anymore, and frankly, it's a welcome change of pace to smoke this cigarette instead of being burned by it. The scent of the smoke triggers another flash of memory with each plume that billows from the cherry. I'll be seeing that evil bitch soon. I know it. I know this terrible woman that haunts my dreams is nearby. I can almost smell her in the air. She's there. She always knows. She's watching, and there's no escape. I'm going to go ahead and post this now. Don't expect any updates. Dr. Snodgrass was very clear about what would happen if I was injured again, and my appointment is at noon tomorrow. I've given him the recordings before. I'll give them to him again. Maybe they'll believe me when I'm strapped to a bed and it still happens. Good night. Here's to hoping I don't wake up. I don't want to live like this anymore. If you made it this far, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter at KingSpook Creepy.